Perek Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Yud Ches, page 1046. Ki yeh le'ish ben sorer umora, when a man has a son who is sorer umora, I think the Art Scroll translates wayward and rebellious. Einenu shomea bekol aviv v'kol imo, he does not obey his parents. V'yisru oso, top of 1048. V'lo yishma aleihim. They punish him, they bring him to Beis Din, and Beis Din actually flogs him, and he does not obey them. V'tafsu v'avi v'imo, his father and mother should take hold of him. V'otzios el ziknei iro vel shar mekomo, should take him to the elders of his city and the gates of the city. V'amru el ziknei iro, they should say to the elders, B'neinu zes sorer umora, this son is wayward and rebellious. Einenu shomea b'kolenu, does not obey us. Zolel v'sove, he is a glutton and a drinker. What do you call it? A drunkard. So what do? What did this kid do? This kid is between the ages of 13 and 13. It's the first 3 months after the age of 13 and the onset of puberty. That's the only time this applies. Though that period of time, 13 years, he's started his physical maturity. For the first 3 month period after 13 that he starts physical maturity, that's when this applies. What did he do? He stole from his parents. He stole some meat and wine, and he went away with a massive amount of meat and wine, and he ate it after stealing it from his parents. So what do? The parents take him to Beis Din for overindulging in meat and wine. And what do? They stone him to death. Eradicate the evil from your midst. The entire Jewish people should see the witnesses and take a lesson from it. I mean, that sounds like a Southern hanging judge. I mean, what's going on? A 13-year-old who indulges, he got drunk, and he overate meat. I mean, that could be a description of any one of you, us, we, right? So what's going on here? What's going on here? The kid overindulged a little bit, and you're killing him. So let me explain to you, first of all, what the Gemara says about this. Because the Gemara is in Sanhedrin. It's actually in the chapter that we're learning. The Gemara discusses this. What's going on here? So the Gemara says, first of all, before anything, what are the requirements? The requirements are, this has to be a certain age young man. He's at the onset of his adulthood. His parents have to be of equal voice and equal appearance, the Gemara says. The parents have to have the same voice tone. I mean, you don't generally want the women to have the same voice tone as the men, right? But they have to be the equal height. I mean, generally the husbands are a little bit taller. Generally. I know exceptions, but generally the husbands are a little bit taller. Parents, neither of them can have any sort of amputation. If the father, either one is missing a hand or a foot, doesn't apply. The law doesn't apply. Doesn't apply if the parents aren't equal. The parents aren't the same. None of it. It only applies under very extreme circumstances with a very extreme situation. He had to have stolen from his parents. If he stole from other people, and he did it, let's say he stole from meat and wine from somebody else, so he went next door and stole. It doesn't apply. Only apply if he stole it from his parents. It only applies if he ate a certain quantity, and it's got to be a certain degree of wine, and it's got to be meat. If it was turkey, it doesn't apply. Very, very limited, so limited that the Gemara says it never happened and it never will happen. That's a shocker. Never happened, never will happen. Well, what's the obvious question? If it never happened, never will happen, what's the obvious question? Why did the Torah write it? So the Gemara says, if that's the case, why did the Torah bother it? It says the Gemara answers, Drosh v'kabel schar. Study it and you'll be rewarded. That's what the Gemara says. So it sounds like what the Gemara is saying. Well, hey, another piece of Torah. Every word of Torah is a mitzvah. So good, I get to study something, and this is a little more exciting than the technical laws of selection on Shabbos. Good, let's get some good stuff. They gave us something. They gave us an exciting chapter here, so that would keep us interesting. We could study that. Okay, that's certainly what it sounds like. But obviously, gentlemen, you've been around long enough to know. The Torah isn't going to do that. The Torah isn't going to just waste the section of the Torah. What does the Torah mean? Study it and you'll be rewarded. The answer is if you study what the Torah is trying to communicate over here, you'll be rewarded in your life. Dealing with raising children and dealing with your society in general. What's happening over here really? And why does the Torah say, well, if either parent has had an arm chopped off and if the parents don't have the same voice tone, what's the Torah telling you? So the idea is, what does it mean the parents have the same voice tone? They're on the same page. Parents are getting along with each other. They're approaching life the same way. They're the same height. That means he's not raised in a family where something really weird happened. He hasn't had any traumatic experiences in his life. There's nothing to excuse his behavior over here other than gluttony. Parents are on the same page. Kids never had any trauma. He doesn't need a psychologist or what do you call it, a therapist, right? He's never had any trauma in his life. And the kid is going off right at the onset of adulthood. The Torah is telling you, what's going to happen to him? He's eventually going to develop a habit. He's going to need his fix. He's going to stand at a crossroads robbing people to support his habit. Eventually he's going to murder somebody. The Torah says, you know what? Let him die when he's meritorious now as opposed to when he actually commits the crime later. Let's do him a favor. Take him out of commission. That's what the Torah says. You know, the commentaries say, well, okay, even if he murders somebody, the punishment for murder is not stoning. The punishment for murder is beheading, which is less severe than stoning. So why does he get stoned? So one of the commentators answers, well, he may kill somebody on Shabbos. So Shabbos desecration, that's stoning. Okay? All right, but it never happened and never will happen. What's the Torah telling you? The Torah is telling you over here something that if you're alive in the 20th or 21st century, you shouldn't have any trouble understanding this at all. In a society where a child is not supervised and a child is out of control, especially at the onset, as he's going into adult life, he's already out of control, that's a projection for what's going to happen in the future. And what are the parents being told? What does it mean he doesn't listen? Now look at the words very quickly. Look at the words. Einenu shomea bekol aviv uvekol imo. He does not obey his father and his mother. You know the word shomea in Hebrew could either be obey, it could be hear, or it could be understand. Einenu shomea bekol aviv uvekol. He does not obey, he does not hear, and he does not understand his parents. So, I'm telling you some pretty strong fundamentals right here when it comes to raising children. You're going to tell you some fundamentals when it comes to raising children. You don't hear your parents? What should you be hearing? Well, what sound should a child hear from his father? He should hear his father studying Torah. Is that what men are supposed to do at home? They're supposed to be studying Torah. What are mothers? What do Jewish women do? They daven. That's what they do. They have tear-drenched, tear-soaked tehillim. You didn't hear your father or your mother involved in anything spiritual? You didn't hear your parents involved in anything? Your parents are so superficial. We spoke about that yesterday. Your parents are completely materialistic. There's nothing spiritual. What do you want from the kid? How could a kid not go off? So we'll protect society. We'll execute the kid when he's 13 as opposed to waiting for him to get to the point where he's going to kill somebody because he got to support his habit because he's out of control. But what do you want? What do you want from the kid? How's the kid supposed to grow up with any sort of discipline? He never saw the role model in his parents. And by the way, that's the rule in life. Whatever you want. There's a hockey goalie named Billy Smith. Any of you ever heard of Billy Smith? He was a goalie for New York Islanders. They won 4 championships in a row. Billy Smith, he had the remember Billy Smith? He had a reputation of being the dirtiest player in the NHL. Every time a guy skated past him, the referees weren't looking. So on a hockey player, they don't have padding on their calves. The front has got, shin guards. They don't have padding on. They only have socks on their calves. So every time an opposing player would skate past him and he could get away with it, he would take his goalie stick and he would slash him across the back of the calves, which made him extremely unpopular to everybody other than his teammates. And so then Billy Smith Jr. was 9 years old and started playing pee-wee hockey. So they interviewed Billy Smith, and of course he's going to be a goalie like Daddy. So they interviewed Billy Smith Sr. and they said to him, is your son going to be slashing the pee-wees? He said, no. He said, well, why not? He says, I told my son, don't do as I do, do as I say. Well, guess what, gentlemen? I never read the follow-up on it. I have no doubt that the pee-wees were limping. I have no doubt about it. Because children don't do as you do. Children do as you say. And what you see in your house, I remember my first kid was 3 years old. And I walked in, it was late at night. And I walked past the kitchen, about 12 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, whatever it was. It was supposed to be long in bed. He was 3 years old at the time. I see the refrigerator door is open. And he's got a big bottle of pop in his hand. He's drinking from the bottle. So my first thought, it's not the end of the world. My first thought was, where did he learn to do that? I know where he saw my wife drinking out of a bottle, you know. Well, one of us anyway. You know, it doesn't happen by itself. A kid's got to get the idea somewhere. Oh, you want your kid? A kid talks in shul. Where do you get the idea you can talk in shul? Well, he's sitting next to his father, sitting there talking the entire time about the stock market, trivialities like the stock market, important things like sports, whatever his father's talking about in shul. Kid sees that's what father davens. That's how you daven. The only success or hope you'll ever have, we get to one second, Justin, the only success or ever hope you'll ever have with your child, you got to set the example and then daven. If you don't set an example, what do you want from the kid? How can a kid possibly do that? I was once sitting at a table, my son, my third son, was about 5 years old. And I'm sitting at the table, my wife's putting the kids to sleep, and I'm eating supper by myself. And my kid comes over. He at the time was a pudgy little kid. He puts his face up on the table. He looks at me like he stares at me eating for a couple of minutes. And all of a sudden, at a certain point, he says, "Daddy, do you love to eat?" So I said, do I love to eat? I mean, we don't love to eat. You know, we eat so we can be strong and serve Hashem. You know, some pathetic answer like that. You know, something along those lines, to serve Hashem, that sort of thing. And then he was, oh, okay. And then he left his philosophy and then went and beat up his sister or something. You know, he went to practical application. But and I was thinking afterwards, how come my kid never came over to me? He never came over and said, "Daddy, do you love to study Mishnayos?" That he never asked me. Well, why? The answer is because my enthusiasm level with a plate of food is probably somewhat different than my enthusiasm level in front of a Mishnayos. You want a kid to develop. The kid's going to have to develop. He develops what he sees in the house. A mother tells the kids, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. Your mother ever hear that music from your parents? Yeah. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. Then the mother's entertaining and you're eavesdropping what's going on in the room, but her 4 friends are over, and you're thinking to yourself, well, that didn't sound very nice. Yeah, I guess so you learned an important lesson. When I'm an adult, I will tell children not to only say nice things, but when I'm an adult, I'm free. You understand? It doesn't work. It just does not work. Justin, what are you going to ask?
First off, I must state I do not agree with euthanasia of children.
Remember, the Gemara says it never happened and never will happen. And by the way, you haven't been reading enough Calvin and Hobbes. Right? Because they're all for it. They're all for it. Go ahead.
However, there has been extensive studies of murderers and assassins for the mafia, and a lot of them had displayed similar traits as children. One is torturing animals. The biggest hitman for the mafia in New York used to tie cats together and throw them over a clothing line. That being said, why did the Torah specifically choose glutton and alcohol versus some of these traits that are obvious?
Good. First of all, that's a good question. He's asking, why did the Torah pick on meat and wine? The answer is that meat and wine are addictive. By nature, they're physically addictive. A person develops an appetite for meat. The person develops an appetite for certainly alcohol. That's why the Torah says these are the most likely things that are going to happen. The most likely thing, you're going to find these kids who are, I had a kid in my neighborhood, I wouldn't let my kids play. I had my son, I had a friend in the neighborhood. There wasn't a cat in the neighborhood that was safe when this other kid was on the loose. You know, every time I saw this kid, it's one thing if kids are wild or kids are active. It's another thing where kids are absolutely sadists, you know. And at a certain point I said, well, I don't want him playing with that kid. Every time I saw the kid, he was either throwing a stone at a cat, chasing a cat, you know. And I know his parents are nice people. His parents are not that type of person. That kid isn't getting beaten up in the house. So, but the Torah is simply taking the most likely scenario where you get a teenager who's hungry and he's getting into wine or alcohol or whatever it is, and he's got it. That's why the Torah says only if it steals it from his parents. Only from his parents. Because, you know, you might once in a while go and steal it from the neighbor, steal it from the yeshiva kitchen. But you're not going to go, your father, it's accessible to you all the time. You're going to be stealing the Torah. We're concerned about the most common case scenario. The most common case scenario is meat and wine that you're able to nip in your house. And he goes out, he doesn't even cook the wine. The meat has to be eaten in a state where he's not even eating it fully cooked. It's semi-cooked, steak tartare, right? It's semi-cooked. Because he's in a hurry, somebody's sneaking, somebody may come, I better cook it up real quick and eat it. We're talking about a certain level of gluttony, which is obviously an indication of an addiction later on. But again, just remember, the Gemara says it never happened, and it never will happen. There is another opinion, Rabbi Yonah's son, and the Gemara says, I saw a Ben Sora Mora and I sat on his tombstone. But the main opinion of the Gemara is it never happened. It never happened, and that the Torah is not looking to what you call euthanasia. Torah is not looking to take out 13-year-olds. Right? The Torah is trying to teach you a life lesson, how you have to supervise your kids, how you have to, what you should be on guard for, how you should get along with your wife. All these things are contained. That's why it's drosh v'kabel schar. Study this and you're going to be rewarded. Question, go ahead. Again, your first name is?
Avi.
Avi, go ahead.
Would it be a mitzvah for the parents to take him to Beis Din?
Yes, that's another good. That's another reason. The Gemara says no parents are going, that's why it's also impossible to happen. No parents are going to bring their kid to Beis Din to have him executed because he overate. Hey, where's all the Shabbos food? Well, you know, Yitzi got to it before Shabbos. Okay, take him to Beis Din. You know, no parents are ever going to take their kids to Beis Din. The Torah's teaching you an important lesson. You're right. That's why the Gemara says it's impossible. Circumstances are so difficult. It is so unlikely as to be mathematically impossible. And therefore, the Gemara says it never happened and never will. So why did you teach us this? The answer is there's so many life lessons here about addictions and about where people could head, and keep your eye on your kid when he's a teenager and so on and so forth, that the Torah is teaching you that lesson over here. Okay.